How's it going, everyone? My name is Liam, and today we're just going to be talking about the newly unveiled Apple Silicon Macs. This is something that was announced earlier this year, but today we finally got a look at what these computers are actually going to look like in real world. They're actually coming a lot sooner than I would have expected, coming next week. So we'll just kind of dive in, take a look at the event, and take a look at what all they announced. Alright, so first let's talk just a little bit about the event itself. It's the third one that we've gotten in the past couple of months. They even commented on that and how kind of unusual that is for Apple, but it was again the same super highly produced, really visually stunning presentations we've come to expect from them during this lockdown period. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good event. It was really just heavy on comparing the specs, really showing how these processors compare to their Intel counterparts. And they really do impress. I mean, just looking at the numbers that they presented and the examples they were giving with like Logic and Final Cut, iMovie, running on a Mac Mini. It was really awesome. So that's something that, I've really been wanting to get again, is get one of those, more affordable entry-level Macs to be able to do things with Logic Pro and stuff again. And it's really nice to just see them really focusing on making that more possible, making that entry-level much more capable. Bring that Mac Mini price down $100. It's a nice little perk. Would have been cool to see something like that with the notebooks as well, but still great to see the performance gains that we're getting. Overall, I thought the keynote was pretty good. It was a little light on the wow, which I kind of expected for something with the One More Thing title, but I think the wow in this case is really supposed to be the amount of performance gains that we're getting with these Apple Silicon chips. Being able to run professional level applications like Logic Pro, like Final Cut Pro on more affordable hardware. Having that higher performance available at a more economical price. That's going to be a lot easier for more people to get. Alright, my favorite part of the keynote had to be at the very end. We thought it was all over, and then there's a PC. Going through the whole old commercial shtick again. It was great. I'm wondering if they're going to bring those commercials back, if there was a hint of that, or if it was just a little fun thing. Either way, it was really cool, though. Alright, so let's take a look at the actual hardware here. So we've got the new MacBook Air. I personally was thinking they might bring back the MacBook brand, the just plain MacBook brand for the new Apple Silicon chip. I think there would have been a kind of good time to do it, but it's increasingly clear that the MacBook Air is forever taking that spot in the product lineup. They're really trying to keep it to that, closer to that, one each professional consumer grid that Steve Jobs really, promoted in the 90s when he came back to the company there. It's really just trying to streamline it, at least in the computer department, for what it's worth. Anyways, so got the M1, 8 GPU cores, showing it. Doing iMovie here. No fan. So that's, I think, the most interesting thing to see from this is how much of the spread in the line really just comes down to thermal efficiency. Really the only thing that sets the MacBook Air apart from the MacBook Pro is the fact that the MacBook Air doesn't have any fans, and so it's a little more limited from having to be throttled a little bit to really fit into those thermal parameters, whereas the MacBook Pro has that active fan, as does the Mac Mini. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they move forward in terms of performance there, in terms of having different processors for different computers, because I mean ultimately when they eventually switch over the Mac Pro, that's not really going to cut it. So we'll see how that's going to move forward. But I just thought that was very interesting. So yeah, just talking about Big Sur. I mean, ultimately, it's it's the same MacBook Air that we've come to know. Now, one thing that I did notice on the keynote, and this may be something on other newer MacBooks that I'm just not aware of because I haven't had one in a while, but I thought it was interesting that it has this globe on the function key, like it's going to function like to be able to choose languages like we do on iOS there. So I thought that was a very interesting addition. I think could be really handy in some cases there. Let's see, scissor mechanism. But yeah, so that's the MacBook Air. And then the MacBook Pro, like I said, really the biggest thing that sets this apart, other than the touch bar, of course, is that it has that active cooling that really allows the computer to unlock the full potential of that chip. In some of the specs, it's listed as the MacBook Air having 7 GPU cores, up to 8, so it seems like potentially in some conditions and some circumstances you can get those full 8 GPU cores, but generally you're just going to be limited to those 7, whereas with the MacBook Pro it seems like by virtue of the active cooling and probably the additional power capacity of having more room for batteries in there, it's able to use those full 8 cores outright. So that's really going to be one of the biggest differentiating things between those two models there, which I think is very interesting. I'd be really curious to see how that translates into the real world and what kind of extreme cooling could be provided to the MacBook Air to potentially get it to perform closer to how the MacBook Pro performs there, or if that's maybe somehow wired in a little deeper in the computer there. So it'll be very interesting to see. So up to 20 hours of battery life. I mean, these Macs really seem like they're going to have more battery life than most people are realistically going to need. Of course, it's never going to be enough for everyone. There's always going to be someone that needs to be able to encode video for 8 hours straight on a battery, and that's just, well, we'll see. It might be possible with this, but we're not sure. Well, that's the other thing, is the microphones are improved on the MacBook Pro. Has a studio quality microphone, which of course is really just a marketing term. There's nothing that defines what a studio quality microphone is. It's kind of subjective, so we'll see what it sounds like in the real world compared to the MacBook Air, but that could be cool as well. So, Magic Keyboard. Touch bar. I've never used the touch bar. I've heard very mixed things about it. Let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Are you meh about it? I feel like I'd be kind of meh about it. I don't really use many of those keys anyways, though I also can see how not having them would be annoying. So yeah, I'm kind of in between on that one. Alright, so let's take a look at the Mini. One thing I love is they kept showing the Mini with what looks like the Pro Display XR, and even in some of the showing it off with celebrities and whatnot. We're showing it with their Pro Display XRs. Now, I get in those cases it's probably people that use the Mac Pro and it's just easy to swap the cable real quick. But I do wonder if there are really going to be people out there that buy the $700 Mac Mini and the multi-$1,000 Pro Display XR. It'd be quite a combination. Let's see. Up to 3 times faster. 8-core GPU again. Having that active fan. Of course, gaming, and they're always showing pretty much glorified iOS games, let's be honest. But I could see it actually doing well with some things that are compatible via Steam and GOG and things like that, so be interested to see what the real-world performance is like. This is what excites me, though, is all these instruments. All of it at the same time. Alright, no display for the digital art one. Alright, so yeah, that's it. That's all the hardware there. Overall, I'm pretty excited. Kind of hoping to get my hands on maybe the Mac Mini or the MacBook Air. At some point, but I'm really excited to see the performance gains that they're getting in the early stages of this transition, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it continues to go moving forward, and just really see the performance that they're able to get out of these chips, and see if this can maybe lead to some really big gains that will really make it easier to justify the cost of the computers. Even with this gain, with this jump here, it definitely makes it a lot easier for me to consider getting one of the lower end Macs. I really feel like getting a lot of computer for that $1,000 or $700 in the Mac Mini's case. So it's going to be interesting to see how these do. I'm really excited about it. Let me know below what you guys think and which ones you're hoping to pick up. Until next time, have a good one.